Hey, everybody, and welcome back to Inside the Force. This is one of our first kickoffs this year of commentaries for all the Star Wars films that we are going to be doing. I am David Cottingham here with Hannah Burr. Good evening, Hannah.
Good evening, and how are you?
I'm doing good. Thanks for joining. First commentary that me and you are doing. This is going to be fun and interesting, I think, because I've done a couple of these already with, the first one we did, me and Casey, it was just a podcast only. So, and then we finally did one where we videoed it. And now this is kind of the third one. I'm doing the second one video wise, but I'm excited to dive into this. We're going to do all the films. We're going to eventually get to films that I haven't done before, like Solo, episode 8, 9, things like that. But we are starting this year, with the first chronological movie, episode 1, Star Wars, The Phantom Menace.
Yes.
So we're going to get right into it right now. Are you ready, Hannah?
I am ready. I am so ready.
All right, here we go. So we're not obviously in the same room, so we've got to sync this up as close as we can. Yeah. So I'm ready to hit play. You ready to hit the play?
Yeah, so 3, 2, 1, click, right?
3, 2, 1, click.
Okay.
Ready?
Ready.
3, 2, 1, click. Okay. Got the 20th Century Fox logo coming up. All right. So everybody, following along at home, or if you're rewatching with us, Lucasfilm logo is up right now. Okay. So here we go. We're going to get into talking about episode 1. Now, episode 1, of course, everybody should know, came out in 1999. Mm-hmm. May of 1999. I saw it during the premiere at midnight. Hannah, when was the first time you actually watched Star Wars Episode 1?
I think I was 10 years old.
10 years old.
So in 1999, I was 6 years old. So it was not until 2003, probably.
Not until 2003. Okay. All right. So first impressions of... Now, you had obviously seen the other Star Wars movies, right, prior to seeing this. So
when I watched Star Wars, I watched them in release order.
Order. Okay.
Yeah, my dad raised me right. He did 4, 5, 6, and then 1, 2, 3. And we actually did it.
4. Okay.
Yeah. So, like Phantom Menace, I didn't really enjoy that much because it felt corny to me. But I don't know. The older I got, I think the more I appreciated the creation of it, and I think I appreciated. Like, the thing is, I actually liked Jar Jar. He was one of the parts I liked, and I liked Obi-Wan. But I just thought, I don't know. It felt like an off movie to me. Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones both felt off. Does that make sense?
Well, yeah. Yeah, I think it does a little bit. I mean, my first impressions whenever I saw it, I was obviously in the theater and midnight, and this was the first Star Wars movie we've had gotten in, I think it was 13 years.
To wait that long is insane.
So, yes. Oh, actually 16 years, because 83, right? 83 was Return of the Jedi, so 16 years. And I didn't, I was kind of like your age in a sense during the original trilogy, because I was real young. So I didn't really religiously watch those until I was, until they were already out on VHS, and I got into it in the mid to late 80s. So when this came out, I was like, oh my God, Star Wars in the movie theater, this is incredible. So I was floored by what I saw, because, right away as you're seeing this, you've got Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon here, as you're seeing, obviously the quality of the movie is already higher than what you remember from the original trilogy. I think a lot of fans, especially the ones that I saw in the theater, I feel like a lot of them maybe not during the movie, but definitely after it came out and people were talking, I think a lot of people were a little taken aback that it didn't look exactly like the original trilogy. I think that I think a lot of people expected that look at least. Is that, what I'm saying? Like how everything kind of looks, the technology is obviously better. Everything looks newer. And even though this is supposed to take place in the past, right? Prequel. So I think a lot of people got taken aback by that. But my comment to that is, and George has said this before, George Lucas has said this before, that if you think about it, the original trilogy, 4, 5, and 6, I mean, the locations in those movies, we're at a very small part of the galaxy.
Yeah.
And most of the time we're in the outer rim. We're not in like the bustling, centropolises of Coruscant or Alderaan, or we're on Tatooine, we're on Endor, we're on Hoth, where nobody lives, right? So the idea of the technology that you can see in the galaxy, around the galaxy, then we didn't see it then. Mm-hmm. And that's obviously because George didn't have the funds to, do anything back then. But anyway, so once you get kind of past that a little bit and know that this is a vaster part of the galaxy, it just makes sense that you're going to see different technology,
Well, I think, and I think the thing is, like, for a 10-year-old, I watched 4, 5, 6. I thought they were brilliant. I didn't even at that age, I don't think you necessarily take in the fact that the technology has changed with regards to filmmaking and such. Mm-hmm. So for me, it just kind of was like, I don't know. It was a little jarring because it's like, whoa, okay, we jump forward in technology. And I welcomed it. Because my dad even explained to me while watching the movies, that, it's going to look newer because, it happens more recently.
Yeah.
But the spirit of it is still there. And I think that's one thing that I always appreciated, is my dad constantly went back to the spirit of Star Wars. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Also, though, like this lightsaber fighting that we just saw with the droids.
Yes.
I think part of me was like, oh, so this is going to be really, really cool now, because it's not.
Well, it was brilliant by George. To be honest, it was brilliant by George to actually start off by seeing the Jedi really quickly.
Yes.
We didn't wait. There wasn't a bunch of, just a big setup of story and all this stuff. I mean, to put them in action right away and show them how, like, Ewan wielding that saber like that, it's like, okay, this is what Jedi look like.
It's so cool.
Yes, it's absolutely cool.
And this whole bit of them cutting through the door, I just thought it was the coolest thing ever. Like, don't get me wrong, it was cool to watch Luke train. It was cool. It was cool to see that with Yoda and see Yoda. But I'll have to admit, I think the Phantom Menace is the movie that made me go, wow, it'd be really cool to be a Jedi.
Yes, it definitely would. Yeah, this is what really put me over the edge to kind of fall in love with the light side and the Jedi Order and all this. Because again, we've heard about it, we just never seen it, and now we get to see them in action. We get to see the whole council and things like that. So yes, it was pretty awesome. Now, going back to like Obi-Wan and Ewan, or Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon there.
Yep.
Again, we're in 2024 now. There's been a lot of books and materials and series that involve these characters now.
Yes.
We've gotten so much since 1999 with these characters. I mean, does it do anything for you now when you watch this again, knowing these stories, other stories? Does this change, the viewing perception for you at all, and the impact of those, especially the Master and Apprentice book that we know about these two characters?
Yes, I was just about to say, just seeing that twinkle in Ewan's eye when he, as Obi-Wan said, the negotiations were short. That brings so many memories of that relationship between Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan when it was Master and Apprentice, and how, Obi-Wan, I feel like I mean, we're not there yet, and spoiler alert if you haven't seen any of these movies, but when Qui-Gon
We're definitely
dies,
spoiling. It's been out for a long time now.
whatever.
Yeah.
When Qui-Gon dies, I think that really forces Obi-Wan to mature quickly. Because he's like his father. So I think one thing that I never really realized until I read Master and Apprentice is the playfulness that Obi-Wan really does have while Qui-Gon's alive. And then as soon as Qui-Gon's dead, Obi-Wan's like, he now has to take a Padawan under his wing, and he has to mature incredibly quickly. Now, he still has his playfulness, but, there's a level of responsibility now that he has to own. And then I also can't really wait, because the other thing, too, is that Queen's Shadow and Queen's Peril are going to be playing a lot in these as well.
Yes. I'll get to that. Absolutely.
Oh yeah, that's not yet. Although
I mean, we're seeing
when I knew about Keira Knightley and Natalie Portman, one game, like, I swear it's Natalie Portman right now, but I love playing the game of
Who's Who.
Who's Who.
Yes.
When is it totally. Keira? When is it Natalie?
Yeah, because to be honest, I didn't realize they switched places until after like a few viewings. Because I was wondering, like, wait a minute, I know that's Natalie Portman as a handmaiden, but like, I don't know. There's a couple times where I didn't realize that they had switched or whatever. I don't know. It's like they actually resemble each other very well.
Even their parents, when they were both in the Queen's makeup, their parents couldn't even tell the difference between the two of them.
Yeah, that's great. That's pretty neat. Yeah, for me, those books, I'm glad you kind of said that, because I think all the materials that I get into and I read, they all change my view of these movies. That's why it's so rare that these movies, they're different every time I watch them. To be honest, it's crazy, because just a little extra stories, like you said. I think the background now of Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon is so impactful. Their conversations in this mean so much more when you know their history, especially not even their history together, but like his history with Dooku now. Yeah. Like why he's the type of Jedi he is. It's very impactful to these stories now. And it's crazy that it can still do that, even though George didn't know those stories then. Those stories weren't around then. But you can kind of see that I feel like they've done a good job of trying to keep true to these characters. Yes. And really show that the characters that George established and the qualities and the personalities that he established, that there's a reason for that, and there's a place for that in the history of their backstory. So now you mentioned Jar Jar. You didn't have a problem with him. Yeah. You didn't have a problem with him?
No.
I mean, you were young. I think most young people didn't.
I know. I think I'm blanking out on the actor's name behind Jar Jar, but I think he received
Ahmed Best.
Yeah, he received unnecessary hate for this role. I mean, is Jar Jar annoying? Absolutely. But I saw the comedic relief in that. I saw that it was a chance for like kids to connect with a really goofy character. Yeah. So it didn't bother me in the sense of why is he in the story. It just he's a unique character, and he's different. We haven't really seen anything like this in Star Wars before. So did Jar Jar bother you at all?
No, Jar Jar did. Look, again, Jar Jar, at the movie when I went and saw it, I was more just in awe of that I was watching a Star Wars movie in a theater again. So now I've said this so many times on the show, but I saw this movie 4 times the day it released. So
wait, same day you saw it 4 times?
Yes, so back then, obviously, Hannah, you were too young, but back then you couldn't pre-buy your tickets, right? So when we were in line, I was in line. We were in line for 2 days. Like, we camped out for tickets. The line was. Do you remember? You remember Lexington Green used to have a theater there?
Yes.
Did you ever know that? Okay. Yeah, there was a Cinemark theater there, and the line, starting 2 days before this release on Wednesday, came out Friday, Thursday night at midnight or whatever. And Wednesday people started camping out, and it went around the building. There was probably like 100 people camping out for this movie.
What?
Oh yeah. And so so this was May, like, I think it was May 25th or something like that when it came out. I was actually in summer school. I was taking a summer school class in college, and I would leave for the day, go do my class, because I had other guys that were waiting in line with me. And then I would like shower up and grab a bunch of food and then bring it back.
Oh my.
And there was 4 of us that were camping out for this. A guy in front of us brought a TV and a stand, and he ran like 5 extension cables like 200 yards away and found an outlet. And he just ran the original trilogy movies over and over again, all day, all night. It was one of the best times of my life. It was so fun because it was pure Star Wars fans. Everybody's looking forward to this movie. So when the doors opened up, I bought tickets for the midnight when you walk in, and then you were allowed to buy for that day. So I bought like the 11 a.m., I bought like the 4 o'clock, and then I bought that evening.
Wow.
So I did the midnight, went home, slept, got up, went to the 11 o'clock, watched that, went to grab lunch, came back for like the 4 o'clock, ate dinner, came back, and then watched the evening. So anyway, by the 4th time I watched it, I was really engrossed in, everything about it. And honestly, for 4 showings in a row, my point is Jar Jar did not bother me. Like I'm with you. I knew this, I know Star Wars is for kids, and I know that character was purely made for kids. I mean, I don't know. It didn't bother me as much. I mean, yes, he's overacting and he overdoes it, but that's what Jar Jar is. He's the comedic, goofy sidekick. Yeah. And it did not bother me.
It didn't. To go back to us discussing the book Master and Apprentice, this whole scene here with the Gungans, like, as a viewer, when I first saw this movie, I was so confused with like the political outings that masters and apprentices had to go on. I'm like, why are they involved in politics? This makes no sense. But the book Master and Apprentice, I think, really puts it into perspective and really helps you understand, like, that's the way they keep the peace, is they do these diplomatic missions to help maintain the peace in the galaxy. And sometimes it involves a fight, sometimes it doesn't. So this scene just reminds me, and I think that's why this movie kind of confused me, is because it was so political. And it, as a kid, you don't get that, which is, I think, also why they included Jar Jar in there. But it was confusing. Like, it wasn't confusing, but it wasn't exciting, if that makes sense, during those bits. And I think the books really help emphasize how important the political side of it is, especially Queen's Shadow and Queen's Peril.
Yes.
Like, we'll get there later on in the movie, but those books made me go, oh my gosh. Yeah. This is horrific.
Yeah, no, and you make a good point. I think George, Star Wars is, I mean, obviously it's built around everything that George knows about the culture of America, right? I mean, it's, and, the original trilogy, the original Star Wars was, basically the Empire was the Nazis, and we were fighting against Nazis, oppression and rebellion and all that stuff. So there is, from the very beginning, there has been a political presence in Star Wars. And this movie does show a lot of that, as well as, like you said, a lot of material that's been coming out. And honestly, and there is a point later we'll talk about it once we get to the Senate part, but But to me, it's become a very interesting aspect. I've never really been a political person. I don't really. All I care about is like keep America protected and try to keep my taxes as low as possible. I'm good. But I enjoy seeing the political side of Star Wars, and that's why I've drawn a lot of my fandom towards Mon Mothma and what she's been doing, and I love the fact that she's in these new shows and stuff like that. So anyway, we'll get there with that, but yeah, that's very true. Now I remember, here's Sidious. I remember a couple guys that I watched this with. We walked out of there a couple times, and there was truly a debate of whether or not that was Palpatine or not.
You all didn't know if that was Palpatine or not?
No, because for one, all we know of Palpatine is being this crude, or the Emperor being this crude person, right, with his deformed face, and he was the Emperor, and he was only really known as the Emperor. Like, you didn't really know he was Emperor Palpatine until much later. In fact, he's never called Emperor Palpatine in the movies.
No.
The original movies. The action figure was Emperor Palpatine, right? So when we saw Senator Palpatine and then we saw him, and it's like, is it possible that this guy actually steals Palpatine's identity later? To kind of, or is it really him? Like, we didn't really, and you still don't really, you don't really know after this movie. Like, it's not totally revealed, but
yeah,
obviously it is. But yeah.
So when I first saw it, and we're not there yet, but that end scene when they played the Imperial March theme, like after they're like, did we kill the master or the apprentice? And then we cut to him and that music plays. I remember distinctly as a 10-year-old looking at my dad saying, that's the Emperor! Like,
yeah.
I called it right away, but it reminds me, there's this one YouTuber I watch, him react to movies because he's never seen them before. Like, he's going through the Harry Potter movies. He hasn't seen any of the Star Wars movies. And so watching him watch Revenge of the Sith, and he still didn't connect the dots that Palpatine was the Emperor until that critical scene. Like, he just didn't connect the dots until that critical scene. And I was like, it was so cool to watch him go, what? Like, he'd see him freak out.
Yeah, that's cool. That's really cool.
Yeah. I will say this. Oh wait, no, wait. It's the scene's not in this movie. It's an Attack of the Clones, so never mind.
Oh. Yeah, now we're getting into kind of the Queen and the handmaidens a little bit, and see, like right now, that's Keira Knightley.
Yes,
right?
That is Keira Knightley. Like,
see, now that looks like Natalie Portman. I'm telling you.
It's the eyebrows.
Pretty crazy.
That's how I tell the difference between the two.
Yes.
It's the eyebrows. Keira has thicker eyebrows than Natalie.
That's right. Yeah. But this is a great point to make right here, because obviously you think of you're looking at these handmaidens and these people are following, and to me, honestly, when I first watched this movie, or even for years, thinking, oh well, they're just kind of her servants, they're bodyguard, because you hear her say bodyguards, but you're like, okay, like, what do you mean by bodyguards? I mean, obviously they're decoys, they kind of keep her alive and stuff like that. But like we read the books, and these handmaidens are, I mean, fair to say it, they are badasses.
They are. They absolutely are. They are incredible. And I just even love the idea of just knowing, it never comes to fruition in the movies, but I love the idea of knowing that the Queen's outfit has hidden compartments with knives and weapons inside of it. Like, come on.
Yeah, but so just a quick, and forgive me, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but the handmaidens are like specifically picked, like they're not no one can just become a handmaiden. Like, they they go through a trial basis, some tests, and obviously they have to kind of look like her because they have to resemble her, and they have to become the queen sometimes. Like they are trained to talk like her, to act like her, and sometimes even make decisions for her. Like this part right here when she says, "We are brave, Your Highness." Like she's getting acknowledgement from Padme that you can make this decision. I think that was in one of the books. Like that's a code for them to say, "Yes, I trust you to make the decision." And then of course Kira turns and says, "I will plead my case to the canon." So she's making the decision as the queen.
Yeah.
But again, see, like you don't know that when you're watching this movie, and like now that we know that, it's so much more powerful. And their names they changed their names to kind of all sound the same, like this Erite, Sabe. I can't remember them all, but Sabe obviously that's who Keira Knightley plays, and she is the kind of the leader of the handmaidens, and one that to this day is still alive in the comics. Wrecking havoc and doing stuff. So there's a lot of history there. There's a lot of background with there, and then there's of course a whole nother group of handmaidens that come around the episode 2 mark when we get into the other books as well. But such good stories. That trilogy of books is really, really good. Especially I think it's Queen's Peril, right? That kind of is parallel to this movie.
I think so. I think it's Queen's Peril.
Yeah.
Also, I'm so sorry, Darth. I didn't see you in the chat there. Hi.
Oh, there he is, Darth S&M. What's up, buddy?
So sorry. I didn't get enough. I just saw it was there. Hello, it's nice for you to join us.
Yeah. Yes.
I think though, going back to the handmaidens, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is the first time the queen actually had handmaidens. I think this was the first time they implemented it.
Yeah, actually I think you're right. I think you're right. Yes, I think that's right.
So it was her and Sabe creating these rules and bringing people on. And they were like, each of them have to have their own skill set, and each of them have to be.
And did they recruit? I feel like they recruited Panaka to train them, or something like that. No,
I think
can't remember.
I can't remember exactly what happened, but I knew Panaka was in on it. Like Panaka's in on it.
Yes, totally.
Yes, but I think I can't remember if he might have been the one who actually had the original idea.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think that's right. I think he's the one who established the program or something like that. That's what I'm saying.
Right,
like I think
he went to Sabe. He recruited Sabe first, and then I think Sabe was like, "We need more people," and that's when it.
Okay, I think I'm starting to remember that. Yep, you're right. All right. So, what did you think of R2's introduction here? Because
I was so happy.
That is a big, obviously, character from the original trilogy that is introduced here.
It made me so happy. I was just like, "Yay, R2!" I even was like, "Oh, yay, R2!"
Well, so when you watch this movie, then where was R2 as far as like favorite characters wise? What was R2 very high up there? Because like Martin, Cyber Ren, like R2 is his favorite character. So I'm sure he was pretty excited when he saw his intro in this movie,
Sorry.
There's Darth
Maul just got his introduction, and I forgot how powerful that was.
Yes.
Back to R2. I don't think I necessarily had, I had my favorites, but there wasn't really a character in the original trilogy that I didn't care for or wouldn't be excited to see again. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No. Yeah, that makes sense. I think this was, I was, obviously he's just now gets ready to say his name. So everybody obviously in the theater knew it was R2-D2. But
Yeah.
I never, there was a big, applause and cheer when Star Wars, bursted up on the screen and the crawl came. But truly, there was nothing louder when R2 got
Are you
introduced.
serious?
Oh, I'm telling you,
They're
it
all-
was yes, it was ecstatic. I mean, people were going crazy that R2 was in there. I mean, because him and C-3PO were just like a quick glimpse in the trailer. Like you never, they were in the trailer, so you knew they were in it, but you didn't know how much they were going to be in it and all that stuff. But that introduction of how he got in there, that he wasn't just a droid that they came along, that he kind of earned his spot, like that is great to know. But he basically saved their lives.
So, my question is, how did people react when they saw C-3PO for the first time?
Yeah, obviously the big controversy was, wait a minute, Darth Vader built C-3PO?
Why is that a controversy?
Do what?
Why is that a controversy?
Well, because at first it was, well, wait a minute, he doesn't remember being here ever.
Well, they clear that up in the third movie. They have his memory wiped.
The third movie hadn't been out yet, though. So of course everybody in the first movie was like, wait a minute, they're just starting to mess up this continuity. And yes, you can solve it by just wiping somebody's brain, but I think it's, it was basically it was a controversy for sure. It was a little weird, but I don't mind. Obviously, I don't mind it because the protocol droids are so common, obviously. So it's like Vader or Anakin, I mean, obviously Anakin knew that he built them, but Vader wouldn't even care anyway, regardless. So,
Darth commented, said, R2 is my favorite light side character. I mean, if you think about it, he is the real savior of the galaxy. Without him, Luke, Han, Chewie, and Leia would have all been squished.
That's true. Hey, look, they would have never been born if he had not saved them on this ship right now. So,
yeah,
he is actually the true savior of the galaxy. That's actually a very, very cool point.
Or would you say the person who created R2 is the true savior of the galaxy?
Well, true, which is just from Astromech Company, I think, that probably built them. But yeah. All right, so we come back to Tatooine here, Hannah.
All right, Tatooine.
And, obviously a big staple in the Star Wars universe. Tatooine almost seems like the center of the galaxy, not the Coruscant. But, so again, this is a city that we are now more familiar with because of the Book of Boba Fett. Because the Book of Boba Fett takes place in Mos Espa. This isn't Mos Espa. This isn't Mos Eisley. Mos Eisley is where, we are with in the original trilogy.
Yep.
Where Luke is from, Mos Eisley, and this is a little ways away on the other side of the Dune Sea, Mos Espa, and yeah, we introduced to Anakin Skywalker here. Now, I wanted to get your opinion real quick because the more and more I watch these movies, the more and more I look at Padme, played by Natalie Portman, and I truly cannot imagine anybody else playing Natalie Portman or Padme Amidala. I think she's obviously become a brilliant actress. I mean, she's only like 16 years old when she's doing this movie, but she's grown into an Oscar-winning actress. He couldn't have picked better. I know he gets a lot of knock, George does, for some of his casting, but Natalie Portman, Ewan McGregor, Liam Neeson, these guys are home runs.
They are. Absolutely. Like there's no question about it. So good. Man.
And I don't mind Jake. Jake Lloyd obviously got a lot of slack too for his performance. Now here's a big question I usually ask people. So Anakin is 9 years old technically in this movie, and she's 14.
Yes.
Okay, so there's a 5-year difference. Do you think they should have been closer in age, or do you
I
are you
do.
okay? Do you
I do.
like you think that he should have been older or she should have been younger?
I don't mind her being older. I think, like, I don't mind age wise if she's older. I think they just needed to be closer in age because, like, 5 years is a very big gap, especially because, I mean, this is just a fact. On average, women tend to mature a lot faster than men.
True.
Just like emotionally and all of that. And I'm sure that's one way you can explain why Anakin's compared to Padme later on seems so immature. It's because he's young
Yeah.
while
Yeah.
she's had time. So, I mean, the age gap always did bother me, but I think it's because it's more obvious in this movie than it is in future movies. In future movies, you kind of forget that there is a 5 year gap there.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I think for me, it's just like in this movie, it's truly a little boy with a crush.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like I don't know, that always felt a little weird to me. Also, Natalie just seems so more mature than 14 years old.
Well,
Like,
and honestly, you're putting her in a situation where she has to be more mature. She's a queen of a planet, you know.
I was just about to say, like, but that just shows how well she played this part.
Absolutely, absolutely. But I think I've come to have the opinion that I believe it would have been better if Anakin was older.
Older
Because
than Padme?
no, older than what he is here. Like I
Yes,
think
I
he
do
should have been
agree.
12 or I think he should have been 12 or 13 years old.
Yes.
Because it would have been, like you said, I think the emotional attachment would have been more real, like a romance budding. You know, I've got a 14-year-old daughter now that has a boyfriend, so I see it, but I can't imagine her having any kind of crush on a 9-year-old.
Yeah,
Right?
that's
So, so that's the thing is I think that Anakin being 9, I think if he was a little older, then you kind of get into that social gap then, right? Because he's a slave, can't do much, but she's the queen, and you're like, okay, for one, there's no way that this slave is going to get any kind of relationship with the queen. But
yeah.
so I do think that it would have been better. But again, it's one of them things where Anakin, I think George wanted kind of the innocence of a young child to see like that. Darth,
Yeah.
that he had because it's true. Like Jake Lloyd or here, the way he plays him and the way he portrays Anakin there is no hint of the dark side whatsoever in this yet, right? There is a sense of loss because he misses his mother,
Yeah.
but he doesn't have really any hatred. He doesn't really get mad about, you know what I mean? So, which probably a 13-year-old would have done, right? So,
I guess
side note,
maybe,
real
but I
quick.
really like that
Side
too
note,
because
real
I think
quick.
another thing that bothers me is like in Attack of the Clones. She's like,
Side
"You're
note.
still
Hey,
that
side
little
note, Hannah.
boy."
Do you know that that's Quinlan Vos in there? You know Quinlan Vos. That's confirmed that that's Quinlan Vos now.
Wait, what?
So wait a minute. It's coming.
Wait, what?
Because so right here. See that guy? Oh man. Oh, it was back. Sorry, we missed it. So there's a table there with a guy that had a yellow stripe on his face. Right
No,
there.
there isn't.
Yes.
I need to.
You can't rewind it. You can't rewind it. You can go back after we're done. But it's
No.
been years later because Quinlan Vos wasn't a Jedi, a character yet at this point. But later on, when Quinlan Vos is developed, they go back and say that actually he was on a mission during this time, and he's sitting there at a table when that whole altercation happens. So,
I'm looking up right now. Oh, it looks like Darth has another comment.
S&M says if you didn't know that they were going to get together, it may not seem so weird when you are young like that. 5 years matters, right? But then in adulthood, that time is nothing. True. Yes, that's exactly true. That's a good point. I guess if you're new to this movie, like if you're just watching this movie and you don't know anything else that's happening, then the age probably thing doesn't really bother you, and you don't expect them to get together probably or not. Who knows?
Yeah.
But the fact that we know that they're Luke and Leia's parents later,
Well, I think the other part of it too is like the way that she remembers him. Like it to me, that gap never, or I was never able to make that leap, especially as a woman. Because if I always saw someone as a little boy on Tatooine, I would not be romantically attracted to them.
right,
If that makes sense.
right.
So I guess for me personally, that never up. C-3PO.
Well, and I guess to her defense, she never really does either, right? Because it's not really until episode 2 where she's like, "Oh my God, Annie!" She still calls him Annie because he's a little kid at that point. But all she knows, remember, because that's the thing we got to remember is I don't believe, now, correct me if I'm wrong, if there was any stories that I'm mistaking this, but no, I think he even says in episode 2, he's like, they don't see each other for 10 years.
They don't.
Right?
They don't.
So she has no idea what he's doing or what he's obviously constantly thinking about her, because it's been ingrained in her since he was 9. But by the time he's 19 and she's 24, he's thought nothing. I mean, obviously being a Jedi, but also has obviously thought of her, and she apparently hasn't even thought of him at all. So
yeah.
So anyway, I do. I was going to talk about this next scene coming up, but obviously, I love this part where we get to Coruscant here really quickly. Like, this is the first shot of Coruscant.
This is insane.
Insane. I remember thinking, "Oh my gosh!" And we get obviously Coruscant was an EU planet, right? That was introduced in the original Thrawn trilogy, and they adapted the planet to be the capital of the galaxy, going into this. But that's the first time we kind of hear Darth Maul. Now that's Ray Park, obviously playing Darth Maul. The voice is not Ray Park. I can't remember the guy's name. I think his name is Pete or something. But he voices Darth Maul, which is, I love his voice in there. Now, I gotta admit, Hannah, this whole movie, this is actually one of my favorite scenes in the movie.
It's a great one.
I love this dinner scene because I love the interaction between Qui-Gon and Anakin here, where he talks about, and the music's perfect when he talks about, like, you're a Jedi, aren't you? And he's like, what makes you say that? I just think it was really well played. I think the kid acts like he's really truly inquiring about the Jedi. He's telling him about this dream.
Yeah.
And I think Qui-Gon in this scene is literally starting to think like, wait a minute, there's something with this kid. Like, for one, he's saying, you basically have to have force powers to be able to drive a pod racer. So,
yeah.
I don't know. I just really love, and I think the camera work is done well. The reactions of people are done well. I just think I don't know. I just really like the scene.
Do you want to know the other reason why I really like this scene? And it's kind of a funny story that Sam Witwer told in an interview.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, do you know the story?
Maybe I might. I don't know off the top of my head.
So Sam said, like, he just got brought on to Clone Wars. And, yep, you know where I'm going with this?
I do remember this now. Yeah.
Like, it's just absolutely hilarious that he...
Wait, I think I do. Maybe, go ahead. Keep going.
Okay, so, oh my gosh, not Feige. Filoni, sorry. Filoni was going through this scene talking about Anakin struggling, and Anakin is trying to talk to his mom and is telling his mom, "I wish you met my wife. I wish you met Padme." And yes. Sam goes, she did meet her, but and Filoni's like, And Ashley leans over to Sam and says, I've never seen someone out geek Filoni before. And Sam's like, great,
That's
I'm
right.
fired. It's my first day and I'm fired.
Yeah. But in fact, that's probably what kept him on,
Yeah.
because he was able to do that. You're right.
Because he saved that huge continuity error that would have happened. So, like,
He said in episode 1 they did meet.
Story.
Yeah.
That's my favorite story about this scene. But you're right. The acting here is great. I think this is some of the best dialogue in the prequels.
Yeah, I do too. I agree.
And like, I think the directing is great. The music is great. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's basically the turning point in the Star Wars story right there. I mean,
Yeah.
the fact that he starts believing that this kid is the chosen one.
And we don't learn about Qui-Gon's, because like when we watch these movies, he's like, wow, he's really obsessed with with this prophecy. But then when you read Master and Apprentice and you listen to the Dooku audiobook even. No, wait, I don't think it's mentioned might be in the audiobook or the audio drama, but definitely in the book, you learn that Dooku was kind of obsessed with prophecy.
Yes.
And Qui-Gon felt a pull towards prophecy, and it was very controversial and very taboo among the Jedi.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I think that's huge when it comes to this movie, because Qui-Gon keeps going back to the prophecy.
Yes.
And it just gives that way more context.
No, I totally agree. Totally agree. Oh my God, Thrawn's up. Thrawn, you're awake? Aren't you like 4 or 5 in the morning over there?
I'm impressed.
Yes.
We have Darth and Thrawn. 4 a.m. Darth
4
and Thrawn
a.m.
both here. It's a party.
Yes. Yes, love it. Oh man, I appreciate you guys.
Thanks for joining us.
So what we got to bring up? Obviously, we got to bring up the biggest controversy that came out of this, Hannah. And what's your opinion? Is the midichlorians, right?
Yeah.
So one of those things again that I was, it took me some time to really think about it. And of course it's like one of them things where you want the Force to be this mystical energy field, which is the way it was described. In fact, he's kind of describing it he's about to describe it to Shmi here, that it's just unique and not everybody has it, right? And now the midichlorians, I think the midichlorians were interpreted as being something that is it's like, I don't know. I think people interpret it as saying that it's something that you almost need it to explain the Force. But I don't think fully that's what George was going at. I mean, I think a lot of people were talking about it being, the mystery of it kind of went away when George kind of introduced this.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I think this is just me talking out loud, but like this, in our world, like everything is kind of science based, right? Everything is trying to be proven. And I don't know. I think, is it possible maybe the Jedi just tried to figure out how we're able to talk to the Force, and the midichlorians are kind of the way, because it's explained in here, right, that they tell us the will of the Force. Like the Force is out there. Like it is out there. Like it's everywhere, right? But the midichlorians are a way to kind of tap into it. And obviously the count, how many you have and all this stuff is kind of plays into how much power you ended up having, or the awareness of the Force. But anyway, I don't think they obviously never expounded too much more of this because we rarely hear about midi-chlorians anymore. So you can take it or leave it, but I don't know what your thoughts on it are.
I honestly think it was just a way, because like if you think about it, if a kid started showing signs of the Force, at least in how we saw with what happened with Ahsoka in Tales of the Jedi, they would discover that she had Force powers, so then they called the Jedi to come observe, and then the Jedi would take the child away. So I wonder if if a child was too young where they couldn't summon the Force right away, or like do what the Jedi wanted to do to have them prove. It was just a quick little blood test to see if it was a higher than usual, indicating that they, you know. So I do agree with Darth here. I just wonder if there was a better way to execute it, a better way to
Yeah.
But like that's my theory, is that it was a way to test babies who parents claimed were Force sensitive, if the child couldn't just like on a whim go, yeah, let me use the Force.
Yeah, that's an interesting, because I don't know if we've never seen that, right? We've never seen when the Jedi are notified or can feel that there's a Force sensitive child out there. Like, do they measure midi-chlorians at all? Do they go and like you said, do they do that, or do they just, obviously we know a little bit of like the story of what Ahsoka did, right? We saw a little bit of that, how she used the Force, and obviously that's what kind of drew I think actually that partly probably explains it. Like, it might have to be that they have to use the Force in order to be sensed. And because Ahsoka obviously wasn't attracted until she used the Force.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's interesting. Thrawn says it was just strange that George didn't really mention midi-chlorians in any other film and expand on that idea. That's right.
I mean, midi-chlorians were mentioned, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like they were mentioned in books and comics. Because at one point, isn't it like Sidious said, like, or there's a fan theory that Sidious created Anakin?
That was
manipulating the midi-chlorians and all of that.
Yeah, that was in the comics a little bit, I think, too. But I think Thrawn what he's talking about is that he mentioned it in this, but didn't really get into it more in Attack of the Clones or Revenge of the Sith. It kind of got thrown out there and then kind of just died. Which again, you don't really need it. Obviously, it's not unless like you said, there's some kind of measuring system with it. That it seems like the only measuring system that anybody uses is the Jedi.
That's the only other reason why, because otherwise you'd have Qui-Gon going, I just have a feeling. I just have a feel like there's no proof behind it, which the Jedi Council would need. And you could argue that even though Anakin claimed to have been able to see into the near future, it still could have just been lucky coincidences, lucky guesses, good gut instinct. Yeah, so I think I honestly think that it was just used as a story device to help tell the story.
Yeah, it was a way to identify Anakin as this strong presence of possibility,
or normal.
Yeah.
Or something very
totally.
abnormal.
Yeah. Well, and then the whole prophecy thing, right? That they would be born of the Force.
Yeah.
And how are you born of the Force? By obviously probably getting created by the midi-chlorians possibly, or something like that, Now, I want to point this out, because another thing that this movie got a lot of slack for, when I was watching these, is the amount of CG, right? Obviously, there is a lot of CG. You got CG characters, Jar Jar, Sebulba here, Watto. It's like you've got a bunch of CG. Now, what a lot of people were complaining about, and some were even the actors a little bit, how it was different to act on all these green screens and blue screens and stuff like that. But I do want to point out, I think a lot of fans fail to remember this, that background that you're seeing now in this hangar, they built a lot of miniatures for this movie. Like there's a lot of practical materials in this movie. The entire Boonta Eve race, whatever, starting gate there and all the stands, like they built all that. Like that's not CG'd.
Those are a bunch of little Q-tips being moved around.
Totally. So I just, I think it just kind of goes, it just kind of falls on the wayside that everybody, I still kind of hear it that like, oh, it's too much CG in the prequels, too much CG. It's like, I mean, they tried to do a lot of the stuff that they did in the original trilogy was building practical sets, building miniatures. Obviously, when you start throwing in CG characters and stuff, it starts to look, a little fake or a little different, but I think they did a good job. Watch, there's I think it's on Disney Plus also. There's an hour-long doc, I think, on the behind-the-scenes making of this thing, and it is fascinating to see the new technology that they developed to make this movie.
I think it's also because, unfortunately, most of the time CGI just doesn't age well.
True. I believe this movie seems like it holds up pretty well, though.
Better than some. Better than some, it totally does.
But you do see some of the green screen stuff.
Like
the outline of the actors and stuff like that. It's not
like that's all
clean.
practical there in this bit. Except for the flying robot, that's it's practical.
That's right.
And I think that's why, like, that's honestly why 4 or 5, in my opinion, 4, 5, and 6 age so much better than the prequels, is because so much of it is practicals.
Yeah. But there's a lot of bad effects now in the original trilogy, though.
If you do watch, but whatever.
Like one thing that I can't really stand anymore. I mean, I love the movies, but I can't really stand anymore. Is like when you watch the opening scene of A New Hope when the stormtroopers, invade Tatooine 5, Tatooine 4.
Yeah.
When they start having to shoot out, it's like the entire hallway fills with smoke. And it doesn't do that now. Like obviously lasers, they wouldn't put off that much smoke. It is like really, it is like fogs up the entire scene. It's pretty comical now to see that.
It is.
I get it. Thrawn says he feels like the CG holds up really well for 1999 compared to some movies that came out around the time. I totally agree. And, in this movie, just to keep in mind, this movie was still shot on film. Like he didn't switch to digital cameras until he did episode 2. So
which is
obviously he has a major
when you consider the amount of CGI in this film.
Agreed. Yeah, I know. Agreed. No, I think it, and I'm sure, just like he did with the special editions and stuff like that, he was improving these movies over the years, And I believe that he kind of probably re-rendered some stuff. They went back and they actually did this entire movie in 3D at some point because they released it in 3D back in like 2012 or something like that, or something, something like that. Because he was going back and starting to re-release all the movies in 3D up until Disney bought it, then they stopped doing it. But he did episode 1. I think he was in the middle of episode 2 when the buyout happened. So, because I saw this movie in 3D in the theaters.
Oh, nice! That would have been fun.
Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, I think if you were to I think the thing is, if you're gonna try to achieve great practicals or movies that never age, you have to point to the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Those will never look out. But I think that, I know people will watch this and they're like, yeah, well, the CG's not great, blah, blah, blah. But it's also consider the year, 1999, and consider everything. Isn't also this one of the first movies to do motion capture with Jar Jar Binks?
I believe he is the first fully motion captured CG character.
That's what I thought, because I remember they first
right.
filmed this with him wearing this huge, not a prosthetic, but a huge
he had the Jar Jar mask. Yeah, he had the head of Jar Jar on top of him so that they can get the eyesight right.
Right. And then later on, they were experimenting with it, and they're like, "Oh, did we waste our money?" And George is like, "No, we still needed that for eyesight, but this will just help speed the process along."
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
I
not.
think that's right because because prior to this movie, I mean, it wasn't until obviously like Jurassic Park came out that he was like, George was like, okay, I can make this movie now because of how good those characters were. But no one had ever tried to replace an actor with a CG character, in the shot. I don't believe. I think this is the first one to
I
actually
think
do
it
that.
was
So
two. I'm really like, if not, it was one of the first.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Guys, we're talking stuff, but man, if you got questions or anything you want us to talk about, just shoot them in there.
Well, I'm
Thrawn
glad
says,
both of you agree that it was still pretty cool when it first came out. I mean, I didn't watch it
yes.
until years later, but um, I was still kind of impressed with it.
Yeah, and Thrawn says, I remember Matrix came out around the same time. You're actually right. He actually came out the same year. Both of those movies came out in 99.
Oh,
Yeah, I think Matrix came out a little earlier. I think it came out a little earlier. I want to say it came out in like April or March or something like that. But
dang.
don't hold me to that. But you're right. Matrix looked great. That was a good CG movie as well. Had a lot of good
That
CG
was.
in that.
That was.
All right, now we're at the pod race, which
No, this is pod racing.
yeah. And Jabba, one of my favorite characters, actually, I was thrilled to see him
Yeah,
in
I was
this
like,
movie.
oh,
And I remember, like, I was thinking, like, okay, that's the way Jabba, because if you don't, you may not remember, you don't remember this because you were too young, but in 1997,
yeah,
Lucasfilm came out with the special editions of the
I,
original trilogy, right?
yep. I saw the special editions, and I thought that they shouldn't have done those, but that was just me.
Oh, well, okay, we'll get to that when we do those commentaries. But so in 1990, I remember seeing a movie in '97, and it's one of the best trailers I've seen there. Ever seen out. But the trailer starts off with a TV screen. Like, think about a movie theater, right? You're in the movie theater, and in the middle is a small TV screen, and it's playing the Battle of Yavin, like when they're attacking the Death Star.
Yeah.
Really small, and the narrator says, for an entire generation, this was the only way you can watch Star Wars. He is, but if he says, but if you've only seen it this way, you haven't seen it at all. And then the X-wing comes out of the TV and fills the screen, and then it's like this big trailer about the movies. That's the original trilogy, and it says, I remember seeing it, like, coming back to theaters in 1997, and I'm like,
yeah.
I'm watching this thing, and I'm like, what? Yeah, yes. Actually, so must have been 96, and I'm like, no way. And then all of a sudden, there's a point where it said something like, with all the characters, with all and then a few surprises, and that's when they showed a CG'd Jabba the Hutt. And then this, that shot where all of them were kind of the X-wings are flying by Yavin and heading. So I'm like watching this, like, what? Like, he added stuff to it. So I'm like, oh, I was blown away. But anyway, that was 1997, and that's when they pushed out the special editions. And then, of course, right after that, the talk about episode 1 in this movie. And so I don't know what the tangent was that I went on that, but
it was because you were very excited to see Jabba the Hutt.
Oh, Jabba the Hutt. Yeah. So when I saw Jabba the Hutt in this, I'm like, wait a minute. Because the special edition Jabba the Hutt, the original one that they did, because they actually updated it since. But the original one in 97, he looked horrible. Horrible. I'll send you a picture. You got to look up the original versus now. Because the way he is now in the movie, it looks like that, right? He looks like Jabba the Hutt.
Oh.
So anyway, when I saw this, I'm like, oh, that looks like Jabba the Hutt. That's better. So anyway, Thrawn says, I remember that trailer. I must have been like 7 years old at the time. I remember being so excited. Yeah. Yeah. I was, what was I? I was like 19, 20 or something like that. I was like 19. And, I'm telling you, it was like the great, I still watch it sometimes. Like you can watch it on YouTube. It is like one of the best trailers out there for that. But see, like this obviously, I don't know if you know this, Hannah, fully actually, but this now is an extended version of the pod race. Like this is not the theatrical version of the pod racing race.
Right.
So there's a lot of extra scenes in here he expanded on and added in here. So this scene is pretty long.
I mean, it's a long race.
It's a long race. Yeah.
Sophomore year in college or high school?
Wait, sophomore year for me. Oh, Darth. Yes, it is. High school.
High school.
Yeah. Okay. So he's a couple years behind me. Because I was I think I was a freshman in college when I saw the special editions come out because it came out like February of '97, and then Empire came out, or January '97 was A New Hope, and then Empire was February, and then Return came out in March. And that's the thing too, is I remember going and seeing those movies in there, and I had only the 4:3 movie on VHS, so I didn't know what widescreen was really.
Oh,
and so when I'm watching in the theaters, well, of course, when they put them back in the theaters, they were shot widescreen, and I remember thinking like, wait a minute, there's so much of this movie I haven't seen before. So I was like, I really started learning about widescreen at that point. I'm like, I'm buying everything in widescreen now because the whole pan and scan stuff, you miss out on so much footage.
You do.
So
you do.
You do. Anyway, also, did you see? You've seen Warwick Davis sitting in the stands in this pod race, right? Oh yeah,
I've actually met Warwick Davis.
Yeah, but do you know that that's actually Willow?
Yeah.
Like that, the character is Willow that's sitting there.
Oh wait. So that's, I didn't know that. So
apparently that's
not just
that's
Warwick
Willow
wearing something that is like Willow.
Like that is Willow. That is Willow. Like Willow went to this pod race. That's apparently canon. Now I probably need to look that up and make sure, but I've read that they go ahead and they just said yes, Willow is there. Willow is there. Yeah.
I don't know about that. How can Willow be there?
Well, Willow takes place on a different planet, right? I mean, we don't know if it's not, I don't know. I don't remember the movie Willow, but anyway, sidetracking here. Anyway, Darth says, did the wizard part come yet? Yes. He said wizard earlier at the, that's so wizard, Annie. Do you know one of the rumors, Hannah, one of the speculations that people had whenever I was younger watching this? They thought, so Kitster is the one that he's talking about that says wizard, his buddy.
Yeah.
Based on the way he looks, I don't know why, but so many people thought that's Boba Fett. Like that's gonna grow up to be Boba Fett.
I mean, I understand that, but
that was a massive theory.
That I feel like would be a little too much if Boba Fett was actually friends with.
But it would make sense, right? In Empire Strikes Back, that scene, it's like no disintegrations. Like I know who you are.
I don't know. I think that's a bit of a stretch.
Obviously it didn't work out, but
But now I kind of get so how it should have ended. Did they did the Star Wars movies, and the one for the Return of the Jedi. At the end, he's with Qui-Gon appears with Obi-Wan, and him and Anakin. They're
Oh,
like, I'm glad you didn't show up like your normal, the younger, annoying self. Yeah, I'd be like, "Meh, from my point of view, the Jedi are evil. No, please, no.
yeah,
Um,
I think I do remember that. Yeah, I think I've seen that.
but he says a line where he's like, so that means Padme's here, right? No? Well, that's pretty wizard, I guess. So
Yeah,
now, like, that makes sense why they include, because I always thought that was weird that he's like, that's pretty wizard, I guess. Like, I always thought it
yeah,
was weird, but now that makes sense.
yeah. I don't remember a lot of people thinking the wizard was a cool thing to say back then for some reason, but
When was wizard said in the Mandalorian?
I don't know, Darth. Yeah, what part was that? I do remember that. I do remember. I think wizard being said, but I just don't remember what context.
Yeah. And then
It's like when
Thrawn.
Han says in Empire Strikes Back, "I'll see you in hell." Oh yeah, so that's actually
Oh.
I thought about that too. Yeah, I think they're well. Obviously, they've never said anything about heaven or God or anything. So, but I do think I think they think there's a hell somewhere in this galaxy. Yeah, I think that's right.
So then, if you're a Jedi, are you in purgatory if you die as a Force ghost?
Well, I don't know. That's a good point too. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot there.
I don't know.
There's a lot there. You know, there was a deleted scene because, like, you know, there's that Rodian right there. But you know, there was a deleted scene where he actually young Anakin, encounters a young Greedo in a deleted scene. Did you ever see
Yeah.
that? Yeah.
Yeah, that is Greedo, right? Like
I wish they would have kept that in there. I wish they would have kept that in there.
Yeah.
That would have been pretty cool to keep the connection a little bit there. So, so Anakin wins the pod race. Yay. See, I think, you know, like, again, that's all miniatures back there.
That's
But you got
insane.
all these little scattered ants back there, like, that were CG'd, you know.
Yeah.
So as we get into this next scene, because I do want to tackle this topic, which I thought, you know, as I was kind of building some notes up for this, I was thinking one thing I really never talked about in the other commentaries or kind of pointed out with this this aspect of Anakin. Obviously, we know that a lot of what happened to Anakin and the reasons he became Darth Vader were mainly because of the separation with his mother, right? He even says it. He says it to Yoda. He says, "I am afraid. You know, I'm afraid to lose her." Right?
Yeah.
Or he says, "I miss her." Right? He says, "I miss her," and basically it turns into the fear of losing her, and obviously he does lose her.
Yeah.
But and obviously when you think of it that way, it's like, yes, that's what happened. He left her and went to become a Jedi and try to have a life and all this stuff. But sometimes you don't really think about the other side of it. Qui-Gon here, you know, his intentions are good, right? He's freeing a slave. And to him, he feels like this is the chosen one. But don't you think a little bit of it is that if you look at it a different way, like, wait a minute, he's a Jedi, and he's basically separating this kid from his mother. Like, he's choosing to take this kid away from his mother, almost to the point where I start to think, like, well, wait a minute, that's probably not a good thing to do, even no matter what you believe. But why wouldn't he take her with him? You know, like, keep them together.
So a couple answers there, I feel like. Well,
Yeah.
one, that like the Jedi are just conditioned to Like they're just conditioned of, yeah, you're separated from your family. That's that. So it's like it doesn't matter what age it is. But I think the other part is that we see in I think it's in Queen's Shadow and a little bit in Queen's Hope as well. We see that the slaves all have chips in them. If you're a slave, you have a chip. So that
Yes.
if you run away and your owner finds out, they can hit a button and you're dead. It's not a
Yes.
tracker, it's a detonator. So because of how the bet happened, he couldn't take his mom.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that like he could forcefully take his mom.
No, but
Like
she has a detonator in
no,
her.
he can go to Watto, and he could have forcefully took his mom. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, he's already manipulated stuff. Like he
Yeah, I
actually
guess,
changed the dice, and he's already doing those things. So it's a part of me is like, okay, but okay, let's just go back to the facts of the matter. Is that, I mean, is there anything there? Like Qui-Gon's the one that separated this kid from his mother, and I think this scene coming up where they're like saying goodbye to each other again is one of my favorite scenes in this whole Star Wars saga. It's a powerful moment, because that is truly the last time. I mean, I know they see each other one more time when she's dying, but that's like the last time he sees her.
yeah.
She sees him. And this is truly the turning point of Anakin's life right here.
It is.
The Mandalorian bounty hunter tells mechanic that. Oh yeah, he does. Okay, I do remember that now. He does say that was Wizard to Pelly. Yeah.
Wow.
That's great.
Oh, bye,
Did they only have enough money to get Anakin? Oh, I hadn't read that yet. Did they only have enough to get Anakin?
No, I think I haven't read that yet was with regards to the detonator. And
Yeah.
because I won't tell you who, but somebody who's pretty significant in the Star Wars saga actually learned how to surgically remove
The chip?
those chips. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
But you're right. This is such a turning point because, and like, I guess I always wondered why, but then I always just jumped to the fact that they're naturally separated from their parents at birth. I mean, at birth it's easier because
You're
you
right.
you don't know them, but
No,
I
you're
guess
right.
he just, like, didn't realize. Oh wait, this is a 9-year-old boy.
I know, and he and I guess Qui-Gon thought, well, I'm gonna have an argument, because normally, yes, I know that this child is too old to be a Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
But they got to realize that this is the chosen one. That's my card, right? That's the card I'm playing, is he's the chosen one. So there's no way we can't train him. But the first fight between Jedi and Sith in the prequel trilogy.
Yep.
It's too short. It's too short. I always thought, like, this is too short. Like, it needed to be a little longer. Or why didn't Obi-Wan jump down there and fight with him?
That always confused me too. So somebody actually rewrote the first 3 movies how they thought it should have been. And one of the things that they said was it makes no sense for Padme to have a connection to Anakin in this movie. She would naturally have a crush on Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Oh, interesting.
And I was like, yeah, you're not wrong.
Obi-Wan, what's I wonder what Obi-Wan's age in this movie. Do we probably know that?
Do we know? He has to be a teenager, right? Because he's still a Padawan.
Yeah, I think he's got to be like 16 or 17, right? I'm gonna look that up real quick, actually. But of course, now we get, after this scene, we get finally to Coruscant, which is by far my favorite location in Star Wars. So he was born 57 BBY, which means, so he was 57 in A New Hope, which was 32 years before this. So that means he's actually 25 years old in this movie.
Are they Padawans for that long?
They can be, yeah. There's no telling when the trials are, when someone's ready to do the trials. But Ewan, I think Ewan's probably that old when he's playing him, but he seems younger, I agree with you. I thought he was probably 18, 19, maybe, if that. But
maybe. I still love the fact, though, whenever he fought with his lightsaber, he would always make the lightsaber sounds.
Yeah, so he's 25. Yeah, 25. Okay. What'd you say? Sorry. What?
I said, I love how Ewan was making the lightsaber noises whenever he was doing the fights.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, dang it. I like that little moment, and I like that how that comes back in the end when she's getting buried. Good tie into there. And then that's Padme there.
Yeah,
Do what?
Like this whole interaction is a little weird considering what happens later. Because she's like, I'll still care for you, Annie. And he's like, I'll care for you too. I'm like,
yeah. Yeah.
But if he was a few years older, then it wouldn't be weird.
Right. Yeah. So again, Coruscant, I'm still a little baffled that they pulled this off. Back in 1999, to completely cover a planet in a city and make that shot there. Make that look as good as it does. It's so awesome, and it even looks even better now when we visited in Andor and things like that.
But I feel like here's the thing I feel about Coruscant is I feel like Coruscant has never changed over the years. In the sense, in the movie making business, movie talking wise, I don't feel like Coruscant has changed. I feel like Coruscant and Tatooine are two places that have always been consistent.
Yes.
You don't feel like they got better over time because of the better technology, nor do you feel like it's decreased in quality. The quality's always been consistent of Coruscant, and that's one thing I've always found impressive.
Very impressive. I totally agree. Yep.
That and Naboo, I feel like,
and
as well.
And just knowing now, obviously when this came out, we didn't have all the details we know now of Coruscant, which, this is 5,000 levels.
Mm-hmm. It's insane.
And now we've seen other levels in this thing because of the Clone Wars and Rebels and other shows like that. But back then you didn't think that this thing was 5,000 levels. You just thought this thing was really high up, really high skyscrapers. Yeah. But the underneath levels of this thing is just incredible to think. The structure and just all the materials that went into building this thing. It's what? It's just so mind blowing.
It's insane.
And I love it. This is where I would live. I would live on Coruscant if I lived in the Star Wars universe. There's no doubt about it.
Oh man.
What?
Oh, I'm just. Okay, wait. Okay, so is this Natalie or is this Kiera?
I think it's Natalie. Yeah, I think she switched back.
Yeah, that's Natalie. It's the eyebrows. I swear, it's the eyebrows.
You're right. You're right. Now here's our first kind of real, well, not first, we just saw him, but like our first real good scene of Ian McDiarmid as Palpatine.
Yes.
Talking and, I know people should know this and they will, but he was the original actor in Return of the Jedi.
Yes, he
playing
was.
the Emperor when he was a young actor then, because again, this is 16 years later, 17 years later, comes back and replays the character, and he's a brilliant actor. Now, we keep mentioning in here about all these books and references and comics that kind of lend our perceptions and perspectives of the movies now. That's still one thing we don't have. We don't have his backstory yet.
I feel like if we were to have, like, I feel like that is something that's missing that would be kind of cool to have. Like, would I rather see something from another time period? Sure. But that would be so fascinating. And I wonder if they're in the process of making something, because I wonder if we truly do see Darth Plagueis in The Acolyte.
Yep.
And that could be a way to introduce that character, whatever happens there, and then it just kind of goes into a book.
Yeah, I was just about to say that Darth Plagueis was the book that kind of gave us Palpatine's backstory, but unfortunately, it's not canon right now.
Yeah, good call, Darth. Yeah, that's it.
But there probably will be a lot of things from that book that becomes canon. And I've kind of stayed away from reading it because it wasn't canon. So, but I've heard nothing but great things about that book. See, the thing about it is Darth Plagueis, who in that book, his species is immune. It's those really kind of skinny, long-faced characters, but the rumors that I've kind of read and heard is that part might even be changing. Like, he may not be immune anymore. Like, we don't necessarily know Darth Plagueis' his species, but like you said, because of the Acolyte, it's possible that he could just end up being a human. So I think, or a humanoid in a sense. He might have long life because he ends, that's like 100 years before Episode 1, so he's got to eventually train Palpatine. But
I mean, and maybe we see young Palpatine in the Acolyte. I mean, because technically Jedi do live longer than their same species. I also wonder, though, if they'll ever canonize Bane.
Bane is canon.
Okay, Bane is canon. That's good.
Bane is canon. He shows up in Clone Wars.
That's right. I forgot about that. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. That's right.
Now, the story of Bane is not necessarily canon. Like, there's been all these books about Darth Bane.
Yeah, that's more what I meant was his story. Yeah. I wish that book tells us just how long the Sith's long game was. Yep.
Yeah. Jeez. And I think a lot of that's going to come out in The Acolyte.
I hope it does. If it doesn't, then I don't know what
they're missing an opportunity if it doesn't.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, this is the first time we actually see the Senate, and it's insane how many planets are here.
Thousands. There's thousands of represented planets here in the Galactic Senate. This is you kind of hit on this a little bit, but like in the beginning was about politics, Star Wars politics. Like, this is the politics on stage right now. This is how George is showing us how the galaxy at this point in time is governed, right? That you have all these representatives of all these planets and systems, and you have a chancellor, very much like our president, but he doesn't really have power. He's governed kind of by, the Senate, but what we learned about this, there's corruption, right? There's corrupted bureaucrats that basically make all the decisions, and that's what lends itself to, that's what Palpatine is manipulating, right? He's taking advantage of the fact that there's a corrupt system so he can get voted into as being the person that will end the corruption, even though he's the one corrupting the system.
Yeah, seriously.
Which is crazy. That's what's so interesting about it to me, is that, we've talked about it several times, but he's not, as a Sith, he's not just going and building a Sith army and taking over the galaxy. Like, he's going a completely long, like S&M just said, it's like he's playing the long game, truly the long game, and he's making everyone in the galaxy make him emperor. Like, he's not trying to be emperor. He gets the galaxy to make him emperor. And that is incredible. I mean, it is incredible.
It's so manipulative. Like, holy smokes.
There's E.T. down there. Do you see E.T. down there?
Yeah, I did. I love that little.
Yeah.
Now they will elect a strong chancellor.
Yeah.
He's so terrifying.
Yeah, so the politics of it, I think I got really into it because of this movie, to be honest. I think the idea of all those, the fact that they're able to govern all of those galaxies, all of those systems, in this one galaxy. Like, I just think that's unbelievably difficult, for one, but they actually do it. But again, this lends into the context of what Tarkin says in episode 4. When he comes in and says the Emperor dissolved the council, like, that's, the Senate's gone at that point, finally, but we never knew what it looks like and how it works, and the fact that he kept it around for that long was actually pretty surprising. But
yeah,
that's what it is.
A Bane trilogy would be amazing, and also, that's one of Darth's favorite parts too, is seeing the Senate for the first time.
Yeah. No.
I would say, though, that to me, for the Senate, especially with her trying to fight for Naboo, I don't like. For me, it was never really communicated how dire the situation really, really was until I read the books, Queen's Peril.
That's very true. Yes,
like you
they're
don't
torturing
realize
her
how bad it
handmaidens,
is.
right? You're talking about the torturing of the handmaidens and things like that.
And the fact that all of the people of Naboo that aren't royalty or not in a higher status, they're in camps. They're being tortured. They're being starved. They're being held prisoner. Like, it's awful. It is absolutely horrific.
That is a great point, because that does, the gravity of the situation here, because you can see it in her face right there. She right there is expressing what you just said.
Yeah.
But we don't know that when we're just watching this movie. And man, yes, knowing that now and seeing her face there, it's like, you get it. And I kind of wish they had, I don't know, some context of it in there. I mean, it just would have contributed to the gravity of the situation, and everybody would have kind of understood what she was coming from. But, because you do have a tendency sometimes of thinking, like, all my people are suffering, and then all we see in here is just like the city of Theed, and no one's really suffering. You don't really see it. Yeah. So it's like, are they really suffering, or are they just not, like, they're just not allowed to do stuff? Yeah.
But I think another big thing in Queen's, actually, it's in the book Queen's Hope. We truly get a sense of how powerful Palpatine is with manipulation and mind reading, especially because Sabe's pretending to be Padme at this party, and Palpatine's there, and Palpatine starts talking to her, and all of a sudden she feels like this really weird force, like, she doesn't know what it is, but she feels this weird wave against her head, and like she's mentally trying to block whatever this is, but she's like, this guy scares me. And unfortunately, she never really gets a chance to warn Padme about
That's
that she has
right.
a bad
Yeah,
feeling
that's
about him.
right.
But
Oh
she's like,
yeah,
there's
that's great.
something off about Chancellor Palpatine. There is something not right.
Yes, yes. Now I did want to mention. I did a post on Patreon yesterday and talked about the from the Holocron series that I'm doing on there, and I talked about the 12 Jedi Council members that are sitting around here right now,
Yes.
and I mentioned them on there, and we've come to get a lot of stories around these characters now because one of them sitting here is you can see her right there to the left. That's Depa Balaba, who is Kanan Jarrus's master.
Mm,
We obviously didn't know about Kanan Jarrus yet, but that's him. Obviously, there's Plo Koon, who ended up finding Ahsoka, right? So Ahsoka, we didn't know yet
yeah.
her story. So there's a lot of significant characters. Keanu Mundi's sitting here. Obviously, Yaddle is sitting here. We kind of found out Yaddle's fate now.
Yeah.
You know, the other two, there's two in here also that end up being two of the Jedi that get slain by Palpatine in Episode 3 with when they go with Mace and with Kit Fisto. Yeah, so but you know, it'd be cool to get. I think Thrawn mentioned it. Getting backstories, or maybe it was Darth, maybe it was you, S&M, that mentioned getting backstories of these people in comics or something like that, you know, and a lot more of that. And I agree with that. I think we're getting a little bit of that, but it you know, what I think, one of the things that I think I would love to see is, if there is, the process of, you know, the true process of getting on the council.
Yeah.
You know, because Anakin gets appointed, but he gets appointed because of Palpatine, so he's not really accepted on there, right? So, you know, getting to be a master and then getting to be on the council would be a pretty cool process to witness and find out of.
Yeah. I do want to just comment on that previous scene that we just saw when they were trying to figure out the fate of Anakin, and May said Anakin won't be trained yet. I completely forgot that the council told Anakin no.
Oh yeah, no.
I completely forgot about that. And then Qui-Gon's like, okay, screw all of you. I'm going to train him. And they're like,
Yes.
whoa, you can't do that. And he's like, watch me. Like,
Yeah.
that's crazy.
Crazy.
That
Oh,
he
they
was,
knew then. I mean, he, you
yeah,
know,
mic drop.
and they threw out the whole, you know, he's too old kind of thing, you know, but obviously he's not, you know. I mean, Anakin or Qui-Gon thought he can do it, you know. And that's the
Yeah.
thing too. You remember, goes back to what Filoni ends up saying. I think he talked about that during the making of Mandalorian, where he talked about this was the turning point of Anakin, like the Duel of the Fates. It's called Duel of the Fates because Anakin's life hinders on Qui-Gon's life, because he would have been the father that he needed versus Obi-Wan being more like a brother.
Yep.
And it just, yeah. I mean, you want to talk about like what ifs, like what if he survived, and how if Anakin what would he have become, you know? Like you said, like there's that one shot you said, like him holding his kid's hands walking down, like that would have probably been the case, you know?
It would have been, so cute.
Had he been survived, yeah. So, yeah, I think the Jedi stuff, figuring out, seeing more about that, but then of course, obviously, we're getting more Sith stuff as the Acolyte comes out, and I think that's what really, you know, I think that's what really drew me in a little bit more on this too. This movie was still that mystery of like the background of the Sith, you know, because at this point, we knew about the rule of two, because the rule of two necessarily wasn't established as canon. I mean, it kind of was, but it was like like S&M says in there, that there was a books, a series of books called the Bane trilogy, and it had been known that he started the rule of two, right? So,
Right.
but at this point, this is pre-Disney, so like it wasn't necessarily canon, but I think George acknowledged that there was a rule of two, obviously, because he established it, right? There was only two Sith at any given time. So, but that background, I think it's going to be so cool to see with the Acolyte and to see how much more Sith stuff that we can get. But I think we have to go way further back to get more Sith stuff. We have to go back to where there was a lot more than two Sith, and go back to what, Korriban or Morban, one of those, whatever original homeworlds that they were on, and get that. So
sorry, in that bit, Qui-Gon was mentioning to Obi-Wan that he's ready to take the trials. I think it's so interesting in Rise of the Red Blade, we learn. Oh wait, no, was it Brotherhood or Rise of the Red Blade? It was both. It was in both. We learned that because of the war that happens, at the end of, in Attack of the Clones, because of the, it's after Attack of the Clones. They're like, okay, all of you are no longer Padawans. You're Jedi Knight. If we call you forward, you're going to be a Jedi Knight. Consider that you already been through your trial. We're skipping that. Like, I think that's absolutely crazy that they skipped the trials and all these kids all of a sudden became Jedi Knights without going through a trial.
Oh, interesting. Mm-hmm. I didn't get through Rise of the Red Blade yet.
I think that part was in Brotherhood though as well, because in Brotherhood,
I do remember a little bit of that in Brotherhood. Yeah,
but that scene is also in Rise of the Red Blade too.
Yeah, so clearly this wasn't a big surprise to most of us. The big twist, like.
But I want you to watch Qui-Gon's reaction, because I think Qui-Gon knew all along.
Oh, really?
I just watch.
He kind of turns, doesn't he? Turn to. Like. I don't know. I kind of think he's like, wait a minute. Yeah, he probably did sense it.
I think Obi-Wan's face is like, well, that explains a lot.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it would have gone better as a reveal if they never advertised her as Padme Amidala. Like on all the marketing, she wasn't Queen Amidala. She was Padme Amidala. So when she's a handmaid and she calls herself Padme, it's clearly her.
Yeah.
You're not like, oh well. But we learned. You remember though? We learned in the books though that no one knew her name was Padme. You remember?
Yeah.
Like they kept that. They called her Queen Amidala.
Yeah,
because
and
her last name is
was
like
a given name. That wasn't her real name.
Right, because her name is Padme Nibiri or something like that, Nibira.
Yeah.
So yes, no one knew her as that. So when she goes around telling everybody her name is Padme, when she's a handmaiden, no one knows that. But we knew that because in the marketing, her name was Padme Amidala. So I wish they could have hid that better, and that would have been a little bit of a. I mean, it wouldn't have been because I don't know. I don't know if it would have mattered or not, but we know that. Well, see, that's the thing too. Is like, for me, it was like I had this sense of thinking, well, surely it has to be Queen Amidala is the mother of Leia because she's Princess Leia.
Yep.
But obviously, Leia is Princess of Alderaan. So it doesn't really matter that her mom's a queen because whatever. But anyway.
I mean, still, I love the fact that Padme grabs a gun and runs into a fight. I'm like, that's Leia's
yeah.
mom right there. That is
That's
Leia's
exactly right.
mom.
Exactly right. Exactly right. Now, when I was, again, putting notes together for this, I thought this was actually pretty neat because do you remember one of the big, at least what I remember hearing, one of the big controversies of the sequel trilogy was that it wasn't until Rise of Skywalker, the very last movie, that we finally got all of our main heroes together on a mission. Like they were all separated, right? Looking at this, I mean, look at this. Like I like the fact that we've always had our heroes together. Like our main leads have always been together. They started together. They're fighting together. It truly is the ensemble that George, put together, and he's done that ever since the first movie with Luke, Han, Leia, and Chewie. Right? It's like they're always together, and I think that is really cool that he kept that together like this. I mean, Star Wars is about family, right? This is the family that is being created right now.
The more I'm watching this, the more I'm thinking I prefer the prequels over the sequels, and I think that's one of the reasons.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because and we'll get there when we get to the sequels, I'm sure. Yeah. But like, I agree with you. I think it took the sequels to really look at these movies and be like, wait a minute, these are pretty well put together movies, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, why were we complaining about this in the first place?
Yes.
Don't get me wrong. I think the pacing is still off. It's not solid by any means, but it at least tells a cohesive story.
It does. And I think, and to me, I think you feel for Anakin. I think you feel for Padme. You know, no matter how much Liam Neeson says that he struggled, doing this role and doing the movie, he was brilliant as Qui-Gon. I mean, he still did a brilliant performance.
And he came back as Qui-Gon in Tales of the Jedi and in Obi-Wan.
Totally. He got over it, apparently.
Oh my gosh. When we heard his voice in Tales of the Jedi, my husband and I, we freaked out. We're like, oh, they got him.
Yeah. I think it was his voice too in Clone Wars, I believe, when they brought him back.
Too.
Yeah, I think they brought him back for that too. So
that was, oh my gosh, it's nuts.
Yeah. So and again, I think with a movie like this coming back after 16 years and establishing the stories and these characters, I do think this is a great way to bring this back. This battle at the end, when you get the ground battle going, you got the air battle going, because it's not like A New Hope where it's just a space battle. You've got a ground battle going. There's so much going on. It almost feels like the finale, of a trilogy, not a beginning of a trilogy.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty neat. What's to be another? No doubt. Yeah, no doubt.
Yep. No doubt that the prequels are better than the sequels.
Oh, is that what he's saying? Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's when it came up. See, yep. That's when it came up.
That's interesting. That is an interesting comment because, the prequels were so torn apart for years. It caused, caused people like Ahmed Best and Hayden Christensen to pretty much walk away from Star Wars.
Like that's...
And, well, it's just not right by any means. No.
He's a great actor. And...
Oh, did you see, actually, I was going to mention this on our show this week, but I think the rumor is he may be up for an Emmy for Obi-Wan or for Ahsoka.
Are you serious?
Yes,
Or
I think that.
what?
Yes, I think
Oh
I
my
read
gosh,
something like.
that would be.
I mean, how awesome is that? That's like, I mean, anyway, I don't know if that's going to happen or not.
Yeah.
I think it's just speculation that he could be nominated.
Okay, so I don't think the Emmys this year. Yeah, there are predictions for the Emmys, but
Yeah, they're not out yet. They're
not out yet.
But the thought is that he may get a nod for Ahsoka. So
That would be fantastic.
that would be just cherry on top, man. I mean, he deserves it more than anybody. I think it's incredible. That incredible. Hopefully that works out for him.
I hope so.
Now, what else can you? I mean, Hannah, can you think of anything else that story-wise that we've read or talked about that kind of impacts, anything that we've seen in the rest of this movie?
I mean, honestly, Queen's Hope, Queen's Peril, Queen's Shadow, that whole trilogy definitely impacts us. And I would also say probably Brotherhood does. I think the Dooku audio does. But are there any others?
There's not a lot of stories, besides, like you just mentioned, the Queen's trilogy there, that takes place after this movie. But obviously we're about to get Darth Maul here. I think there's some more stories coming. There's a new comic that's coming out with him. There's obviously some backstory of him, but we know what he becomes later. I mean, there's more story after this movie, which is a massive impact on the story, on the canon of Star Wars. But
I'm going to stop your thought right there because I'm really curious. What was the theater's reaction to Darth Maul's saber?
Oh, well, again, it wasn't a surprise because it was in the trailer.
Oh.
So, yes,
Man,
it was in the trailer.
That should not have been in the trailer. That should have been a surprise because everybody would have been like, what?
Yes, you're right. That shot right there was in the trailer when he ignites both sides.
I freaked out as a kid when I saw that. I was like, what?
Yeah, the lightsaber fighting later on is just hands down one of the best around. Yes. There's no doubt about that. Especially when they get separated and he's fighting them one-on-one. It's just, the Maul. We'll have to stop and just watch it. But the Maul Obi-Wan fight is just incredible. But
I was about to say, I think
just the reaction of him, showing up on screen and them starting to fight. It was crazy at the theater. It was crazy.
I also think the music behind it is just so powerful as well.
Oh, Duel of the Fates? Yes. Yeah, Duel of the Fates is just incredible.
Oh my gosh.
But, right away when you're watching this, all I can think about is like, I just want more of this. Like, this is the Jedi lifestyle. I just the way they're fighting, I just want more story. I've always wanted more stories around that.
Preach it indeed. I agree. I think part of this, this fight, the Duel of the Fates fight, I think was the moment where I thought the Jedi are so cool. Yeah. That's when it was like, I want to be able to fight with a lightsaber.
Yeah.
And do cool stuff like that.
But I just can't imagine if we're ever gonna get, like, I would relish it, but like if we're ever gonna get the stories where there are more Sith out in the galaxy and there's more Jedi, and you're getting these battles like this like all the time, like everywhere they go.
Old Republic.
Yes, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Yes, we need some stories or we need some TV shows or some movies about the Old Republic, because
we do. Yes,
I want to see a bunch of
yes.
I want to see a bunch of Jedi and a bunch of Sith fighting each other. Like that's I want that badly. So badly. That guy there that just got blown up. Do you know who that was?
No, I didn't catch his name.
Well, it's the guy that plays that pilot. His name's John Knoll. He's the supervising CG supervisor or whatever. So he's one of the Lucasfilm guys, and food for thought. John Knoll is one of the original creators of Photoshop. Did you know that? You didn't know that? Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
John Knoll. Yeah. Aren't we Sith Wars? Aren't we supposed to get a little in the Acolyte? I don't think so. I don't think so, Darth, because we're only 100 years out of the movies. This movie.
Yeah.
And there's still that rule of 2 going on. So I think we're gonna find out who the master and apprentice are at that point in time. And I think the Acolyte is going to reference. I think the Acolyte's going to just reference one of their followers. Like, you know how we've seen it to where I think they're changing the rule just a little bit. Like
a little.
The rule of 2 just says that there's a master and an apprentice. But it doesn't say anything about having, dark warriors or Sith acolytes, like people that are loyal to them, that are pretty much using the dark side, but they're not fully trained as Sith. So I think that's what the Acolyte is technically. To me, it's going to be about what that's about. Something like Maul and Ventress. Yeah, well, Maul was the apprentice, so he was a Sith. Ventress was never a Sith. She was that dark warrior that Dooku trained and was, gonna eventually probably turn her into a Sith if he ever got rid of Sidious. But obviously that never happened. So,
yeah, it's a weird thing. It's a really weird thing.
Yeah, I think we're just gonna find out that there were a lot of Sith followers and Sith acolytes, but there still wasn't more than 2 actual Sith.
Yeah. Yes.
And obviously they can't find out, like in the Acolyte, the Jedi technically can't find out about them because they still think by the time we get here that they were extinct.
Yeah.
Unless the Jedi try to hide it or, whatever, I don't know. But he does say, Mace Windu said it earlier when they were on Coruscant, how he's like, you need to go with the Queen because this could be the clue that unravels the mystery of the Sith. So they are acknowledging that there is a mystery out there about the Sith.
Yes.
Like, what is this mystery? Like, are they really around? Did they really die off? Or is this maybe that's what the Acolyte is going to show us, is that there's this hint that there possibly could be out there.
Well, I do know that the Jedi were trying to find out about the Sith because in Rise of the Red Blade, and this isn't a spoiler because this is like, I think this is actually the very first chapter. She comes across Icarus, Iskat. She comes across with her master, and her master's like supposed to go out and find artifacts and stuff, specifically Jedi artifacts if she can, but at times they come across Sith artifacts. And the Jedi treat them with reverence, like they're like, this is dangerous, blah blah blah, but they take it back to the Jedi temple with them because they want to see if they can glean from it any of the secrets of the Sith.
Right. Yeah.
So I think you're right. I think there's a huge secrecy to it. And the Jedi are just trying to find out more about the Sith.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and you're right. You're right, Darth. Looking at the Sith Eternal, there were how many there were in Rise of Skywalker. Absolutely, I think Palpatine is recruiting and getting them to build. I mean, someone had to build all those dang Star Destroyers, and keep them alive and things like that. So yeah, there's definitely followers of the Sith, but not true Sith.
Yeah. And they could have been, and I'm pretty sure they were a part of a cult.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Rise of the Red Blade, such a good book. Yes! Okay, Rise of the Red Blade was, I can't wait until Dave reads it so we can talk about Rise of the Red Blade. It's very, very good. Yeah, it's very good. And that's all I can say about it without doing spoilers. Because there's one part of the book that took me by surprise.
Does it take place like right after episode 3, like right around that time period, or a little later?
It actually takes place during Attack of the Clones. That's where it starts.
Rise of the Red. Oh, well, it's about Inquisitors, right?
Yes, but you see her as a Padawan first.
Oh, right, yeah.
Adjust your reading list.
Yeah, I need to do. I'm trying to finish the Thrawn ascendancy stuff first.
Oh
yeah.
Sorry, it's the moment.
Well, that was obviously a very shocking moment whenever I was watching this in the theaters.
Like did you all not expect him to go down like that?
Well, you didn't really know, but as it started playing out, you kind of had this feeling like, oh, wait a minute, it's the rhythm, right? It's the rhythm of the Padawan sees the master get killed, just like Luke saw Obi-Wan get killed. So after a while, I was like, oh, wait a minute. So that's that look. You remember? That's that look that Obi-Wan gives in A New Hope. Like, I know how this feels, and I know what this is basically the step that this person needs, right?
Yeah. So it's kind of a reverse way of the rule of 2. Instead of you have to kill the master, the master has to give themselves up for the apprentice.
Yes, that's true. I mean, is it possible? I don't know, but is it possible that Qui-Gon just sacrificed himself?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
I don't think so either. I'll keep watching. I'll be right back. I got to take the dog outside.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Still here.
All right, so now I'm kind of going solo right now with the commentary. Darth, what did you think about this fight here? Because this by far is the best saber fight that we clearly have ever gotten. This is so fast, so energetic. It's such an incredible. And Ray Park, I don't know if anybody better could have played Darth Maul to get this right. Oh, I said, well, the end, it sucked. I just got that new bad guy. Yeah. Yeah. Now that's another fight I just truly wish that thing lasted a lot longer. It was so fast, so quick, but it's so entertaining. But the fact that it didn't last, and I truly, I remember watching this too, and I remember truly thinking, how is Obi-Wan going to get out of that? Because, Obi-Wan, the only way he can go is up. And if he just went up, he clearly can get struck down as he's going up. Like, I truly was sitting there like, how is Obi-Wan going to get out of this? Like, my intention, my thought was he's going to maybe force pull him down the shaft.
Yeah.
Yeah, like because if you jump up there, all he has to do is stick his lightsaber out and you're dead. So it said so much movement was blown away. Yep, my thoughts exactly. Yeah. So I really was surprised how he ended that shot with Obi-Wan. And I was surprised that I wasn't really surprised that he killed him, I guess killed Maul, but I did think that I actually thought Maul would actually be a bad guy throughout the prequel trilogy.
Thought so too. I think that's one thing that would have made the trilogy better. I think there are two things that would have made the trilogy better. Yeah. One, if Darth Maul was a villain throughout the whole trilogy, kept it the same.
Right.
The second thing was, I thought that this trilogy should have been more focused with Obi-Wan as the protagonist. Then, yeah, I think Obi-Wan should have been the protagonist in these three instead of Anakin. Because if you think about it, Luke is the protagonist in 4, 5, 6. So then 1 through 6 in the background, the B story is the arc of Anakin Skywalker.
Yeah. I mean, you can kind of, technically, can't you make the argument that it is kind of about Obi-Wan?
And I'm saying I feel like instead of Anakin being your protagonist, or like you have a different protagonist in each movie, I feel like it should have been Obi-Wan.
That's what I'm saying, though. It is there, but he kind of, there's arguments to be made, I believe, that he is the protagonist in the prequels because,
but he's not your main character. Like, it's not, is it?
I don't know, because like in episode 2, right, he's the one doing all the investigating. He's the one that discovers Geonosis. He's the one that discovers the cloned army.
Anakin, and it's Anakin's choices that are affecting everything. I mean, who's the protagonist in this movie?
I would kind of say it's Qui-Gon.
Qui-Gon, yeah, it's Qui-Gon in this one.
Qui-Gon Jinn, yeah.
And then it's Anakin in 2
and Padme, right? Qui-Gon and Padme.
Normally, stories only have one protagonist.
Well, sure. Now, I would say probably Qui-Gon then.
Yeah, it would be Qui-Gon. Oh, I love. Wait.
No, and I like S&M saying he should have actually just force throw the lightsaber. That would have been pretty cool. Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
That would have been. Oh, I'm sorry that CGI looks so bad for Yoda, especially when we're so used to seeing him as a puppet.
Well, when this first came out, he was a puppet.
I know.
And it was horrible. I hated the puppet. I think this looks so much better. Like, this is, to me, Yoda needs to be CG. I like it better. I like it better that he's CG. I think he's too restrictive as a puppet now.
Okay, I understand that.
Yeah, I like the fluid of his movement, and he just, Yoda, obviously my favorite character. So, but I love the shot of him. Like that shot right there, turning and telling him that he's the master now.
But I find it very interesting that Yoda specifically states there, the council agrees with you. Not I agree with you.
That's right. That's right.
The council agrees with you, therefore.
Now, I thought this was interesting. I saw a post about this actually just the other day. And it was this picture right here. See that shot where Ewan turns to Anakin there? And it says, take a look, because right here, The only characters standing between Anakin and Palpatine are Padme and Obi-Wan.
What?
Right? Isn't that cool?
What?
Now, was that intentional by George? I kind of feel like it probably was. But like like in that shot right there, the only character standing between Palpatine getting to Anakin is Padme and Obi-Wan.
That's insane.
Like, like obviously this shot right here too is telling you that he's the bad guy.
Yeah.
Right there, it's telling you he's the bad guy. So.
Yep, and I, 8-year-old me was like, he's Palpatine, he's like just going nuts.
Yes. All right, we are coming to the end. We are coming to the end of our commentary, Hannah. Our first commentary together, episode 1. That was pretty good, right?
Yeah, it was really good. I forgot how cute this movie was.
It's a good movie. It is a good movie. I do really enjoy it.
It's not a masterpiece, but it's good.
No, it's fun.
No, thank you.
It's got good moments. It's got good characters in it. I mean, like we said, it's got brilliant actors.
Yes.
I mean, right there, Ian McDermott, Natalie Portman. You got Samuel Jackson in there. You got Ewan McGregor. I mean, come on. You got brilliant actors that really do well for the prequel trilogy. So, I mean, you're just missing 3PO. That's all you're missing right there is 3PO.
Yep.
All right. Of course, we gotta let the credits play out, but yeah. So that's our first episode 1 commentary. Hannah, thanks for doing this. This is great. This is gonna be fun.
This is gonna be fun. Thank you so much, Dave.
I mean, we got a lot to get into. I mean, again, we just kind of scratched the surface with episode 1. Episode 2 is next up. We'll do that. We're going to do this at the end of every month. Obviously, if you're watching this later, if you're not watching this like early on, but go check out, if this has been out, go check out our other commentaries. But here in 2024, we're going to be doing them once a month as we get through the year.
Thank you for joining us, Darth.
Yes. Thanks, Darth. Thanks, Thrawn.
Thank you, Thrawn. I hope you're enjoying listening to this while you're at work, pretending to work, as you said earlier.
Yeah. And I've got, I'm cutting little trailers. Have I showed you? Have I shown you that yet?
Yeah, you've shown it to me. I've seen them floating on the socials.
No, the trailer I made for this movie.
Oh, no, you didn't. I didn't see the trailer for this movie.
I'll show you tomorrow. But I'm cutting kind of fan trailers that I'm going to release out there, and then at the end of that, obviously it'll be check out the commentary. So I'll work on that, getting that out. This will probably be out. I'll probably try to get this out by the weekend, but
that's awesome.
Because what I did before was, if you watched our commentary before, I had the movie kind of playing in the corner. I think I could still do that. I mean, I'll try to do that. I never got really flagged for it. So, because you can't really hear the audio that much, because we're the prominent audio talking in it. So I'm going to try to have the movie in the corner again so that people, when they're watching this, they can follow along what we're talking about with what's going. But we'll see if I get flagged and they tell me to take it down or not. So, but yeah, the goal of this thing is to, and I'm going to probably do the same thing where, if with Thrawn and S&M joining us, I'm going to put this on. I'm going to put our feed on Patreon. So if you want to join us while we're recording these things, you can join us on Patreon. It's open to all the members on there, so it's not just any tier. It's all tiers. So anybody that's on there, please feel free to join us. and watch us record this thing. Yeah. So, and then of course it'll be on YouTube later, and we're going to get through all the movies. All 11 of them. 11 of them. Yeah. So, but it's fun, it's just really trying to get, look at these things differently as because of all the stuff that we're diving into with the comics and the books and everything, the games. I mean, it's just how much it's really changing our view of this thing. So, and it really takes watching this again like this to really start thinking about some of that stuff, because it's there's a lot of stuff out there now.
It's crazy.
Okay. Of course, if you're here on YouTube, we've got a lot more shows on here. Hannah and I do Beyond the Saga, where we dive into all the stories beyond the Skywalker saga, all these movies that we're talking about, and Council Sessions, Dark Knowledge, Masters of the Order. Got a couple of interviews lined up that I should be doing here soon. Adding to that, trying to work hard on getting some of those. And then, of course, Inside the Force every week, me and Hannah talking about all the Star Wars stuff this week, which I won't really talk about this so I don't date this thing that much. I'm already starting to date this thing. But anyway, go to our YouTube channel or find us on any podcast feed if you want to just hear the show, the weekly show on there. What else?
I think that's it.
As we wait for these credits to finish out, because we got to wait till the credits finish out.
Yeah, we do. Oh my God.
Episode 2. Yeah, so episode 2. What are you looking forward to? When's the last time you watched episode 2?
For years.
Years? Really? Has it been years since you watched any of these movies?
No, I've seen Revenge of the Sith, Empire Strikes Back.
Oh, okay. Yeah. The ones you like, I guess.
Yeah.
Right? No, episode 2. It's been. I mean, I've obviously watched it sometime last year, but I don't know when. Last marathon. Usually have one twice a year. Oh, okay, yeah.
Okay.
That's what Darth watches. Yeah, and I think I'm like that too. I'll have like a obviously whenever there's like Star Wars weekend on TNT or something like that, and it's on, I'm usually playing it in the background, and I'm catching a lot of it by then. But to actually sit down and watch it in a while, it has been a while for me too, actually. So, all right, there you go. Credits are done. Thanks everybody for sticking with us and watching this with us. This is great. Comment below on anything that you've thought about what we said and things like that. And we will be here next month for episode 2. Or again, if it's out there already, go check it out. It'll be at the end of this video. You'll be able to click it right to it. Yeah. So thank you, Hannah, for joining me. This was fun to get your perspective on this. Thank you, Darth, for tuning in and hanging with us. And thank you, Thrawn, for being there too. You guys are my master patrons, and I we really do appreciate you guys and the support. And we'll get you involved more in this stuff. And this is great. This is great. So, all right, have a great rest of the week for anybody that's watching. I keep trying to date this thing. It's like so bad. Don't date it. Yeah. Thanks everybody for being with us. Thanks for the support. Come back for more commentaries here on YouTube and join us on the podcast, or hang out with us on Patreon, because we're going to put a lot more stuff on there this year. Thanks, Hannah. Thanks, care.
Dave.
I'll see you tomorrow. Have a great rest of the week, and good night. May the Force be with you.